So, this idea of extending evolution beyond the biological scope can be a little bit tricky for people to get their mind around. So, what's going on here?
Evolution beyond biology. Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, let's start with defining evolution the best we can. Lots of people, particularly from some people who have basically got a non-scientific agenda, kind of say evolution isn't true and it's just loose. But evolution certainly is a well understood physical phenomena, particularly in biology. And for evolution, before understanding molecular biology, what we saw is that biological objects interact with each other and produced offspring, either by their interactions, by in some manner, some sexual reproduction or asexual reproduction. That offspring would then exist in the environment and normally would be kind of like its parents, but occasionally they might have some features that make them less fit or more fit. And if you think about it, if you're able to get food from the environment and exist, if you're less fit, you'll die quicker. And if you're more fit, you'll be able to produce more offspring. So evolution basically is really I wouldn't call it the physics, but the science of survival. We know at the molecular level in Darwinian evolution that basically we have a genetic code, and the variation in that genetic code can give us advantages and disadvantages. And there's a big debate about how that process occurs, whether it's random selection, random mutation, and that provides the engine for all evolution that we know in biology. Now, because we interact in because human beings are now, we're biological, we're cultural, we're technological. There is an argument to say that, let's say we made a very catchy song or tune just now, we could not infect but inspire others to copy that, and the survival of that tune would propagate perhaps and survive, and maybe someone would adapt the tune to make it more catchy, so it could become almost go viral for a period of time and would live in a certain sphere of a metasphere. So it's loosely related to but not directly dependent upon biological entities, but the technology. It's now before biology. So when we then say, well, is there evolution before biology? If we define Darwinian evolution, survival of the fittest by natural selection, then it's hard to understand how evolution occurred before before the origin of life. How does evolution start? And so that's, I think, a really important question. That is there evolution more slowly? And my feeling is that selection is the engine that produces the machinery, and the evolution is a particular type of machinery in biology, and it really supercharges selection. It's like a selection amplifier. So one of the things that we're trying to do is understand how we can create evolutionary systems without biology, and that's the challenge right now, which is super exciting.
So, how's that going? Looking for selection in the chemical space?
I think that, well, so we know what we're looking for finally, which is kind of like, sounds quite bizarre. I'm a chemist, so as a chemist, I'm kind of like, and I'm wanting to look at not just the origin of life. I've long said it, looking for the origin of life is almost a bit like just saying, I want to understand how the star in our solar system came into life and no other star. Where was the exact hydrogen, what were the exact events, rather than looking up into the sky and saying, oh, every night on average somewhere in the universe there is, some suns being born and some suns dying, and it's a statistical thing. And I would like to do the same thing to life and say, well, is life starting on some worlds and dying on other worlds, and what does that look like? And so when we were thinking, and before, I would say that in my work, and it's not just down to me, I think there's lots of people who work for me, my collaborators, the community, the current zeitgeist, if you like, that there is a kind of a recognition that probably looking for the origin of life, took people kind of looking in one way, which was maybe rather myopic and backward looking and looking for the precise events rather than asking, what is the phenomena that gives rise to life in general? And so that took us a wee while to really get there. I mean, I think over 10 years I've been thinking in that way. But the problem is, I'm like, say, right, I'm going to make a life form. And everyone's like, yeah, good luck with that. And I mean, even, I often get kind of comments on a TED talk I gave where I said, well, we'll do it in 2 years. And that is quoted a lot. And I stand by that. But and it sounds like a cop out, right? But it's just the wrong 2 years, because I'm pretty sure, and this is what I meant by that 2 year comment, is that once we understand what we're looking for, that we should take us 2 years of experiments to basically do it. And so the problem was, is like, what is life? What does it do? What is evolution? What does it do? What are we looking for in the lab? And what we've kind of just realized just in the last, I would say 2 years, or maybe 3 years. I mean, COVID seems to have taken the history way back. Like, where were we? Basically, in the middle of 2019, I realized what we were looking for, and we were looking for selection. And selection it allows us to produce complexity. It allows us to produce complex objects from simple building blocks. Like, simple stuff through time being selected builds more complex stuff, if that more complex stuff happens to be able to survive the environment, weathering, radiation, other stuff, and it's able to somehow influence the production of itself, then you get this loop, which is not quite evolutionary, but pre-evolutionary, but very similar to evolution. And you get selection, and then you build a genetic machine. And so what we're doing in the lab right now is we literally have experiments ongoing where we're looking for the construction of genetic machines from scratch, from sand. And the mechanism for that is, well, the observable for that is looking for complexity. The mechanism for that is unknown in detail, but we have an idea, and I'm super excited because basically we just need to go and look at the magnifying glass on the experiment and look, and it's going to be like any phenomena. My prediction is that seeing the emergence of selection from abiogenesis in the environment to start to give us evolutionary systems will be easy. Like so simple. It will give you feeble objects, but they will be able to become more sophisticated over time, more quickly. People kind of get confused by the complexity of the cell, but the cell, that's an amazing thing. That cell is evidence of 4 billion years of technology for evolution. And then when you look at the cell, go, oh, wow, it took us 4 billion years to do that. It's like, okay, I can get that. That's kind of cool. Whereas people look at the cell and go, oh my gosh, how did that form out of nothing right now? The answer, it didn't, it couldn't. It required 4 billion years of search and destroy and survive. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of evolution in a nutshell. And I think we're going to, understand the phenomena in the universe of selection to evolution that gives biology, and not just, life, right? Our life on Earth, I would call biology, and I would call other life elsewhere not biology, something else. Astrobiology, maybe non-Earth biology, who cares?
But our biology on Earth certainly feels special. Like you said, it's a selection amplifier. But going along this train of thinking, could you yield multiple biologies if you just go down to the combinatorial space in chemistry?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's a conjecture. The thing that's exciting about this as a scientist, I am certain about the experiments I would like to try. I have some curiosity about what I would like to see. I'd like to see change, right? And so I'm not entirely sure exactly what it's going to throw at me. So, but I think there's a phenomena there. No one has seen a star form up close, but you can posit, gas gravity accretion. At some point when all gas collapses in, you get this densification, and the gravity basically grinds everything together. And then you get to the point where the gravity overcomes a strong nuclear force, which is just, if you think about it, it's the most mind-blowing thing, actually. The gravity, the weakest force in the universe, well, not the weakest, but one of the weaker ones, that basically at some point can basically own the strong force and say, nope, you're gonna fuse. And so I think that we understand that, and I think we'll understand this. The problem is that we have chemists who are wanting to just do chemistry, which is great. Chemists should do chemistry, they should be allowed to. Evolutionary biologists who basically don't care about chemistry are just fascinated with what's going on. Geologists who want to understand the Earth. People who are trying to kind of put together this complexity. And then there's this other community who refuses to believe that it's possible. And when I say, well, I don't believe, they say, we don't believe you. And I say, that's great. You shouldn't believe us. It's not about belief. It's about a well-formed experiment. And I think until 2019, 2018, I really didn't have, I could say to people, I'm going to make inorganic life, and I grind sand up in a pot. But what would success look like? And I feared that, even if I had made a life form or a selection engine, that people would say, well, what is it? Is it a cell? Is it a bit of sand? Is it a blob? And then I say, well, actually, we want a machinery where we have a complexity audit, where we have simple stuff in, complex stuff out, and we look how time and energy and stuff basically forms these objects over time. And it is the interplay of time as a resource and stuff and energy together that gives you existence through persistence. And because physics doesn't accept time as being real, it's emergent, there's no way that physicists could actually ever understand the origin of life and biology ab initio, which is insane.